Nelson Mandela was a South African anti apartheid revolutionary political leader. He is undoubtedly an international hero who spent his entire life fighting against racial oppression in South Africa. In 1993, he won the Nobel Peace Prize, and in 1994, he went on to become the first black president of South Africa. He is respected as a vital force in the fight for human rights and racial equality. Long Walk to Freedom is the autobiography of South African President Nelson Mandela. First published in 1994, the book covers the entire lifespan of the African president from his youth in apartheid South Africa, his coming of age and education, his embrace of political activism, and his role in the anti apartheid movement. It talks of his 27 years long prison term after being arrested as a terrorist for the role he played as the leader of the then outlawed African National Congress. On 10th May, the oath taking ceremony of President Nelson Mandela was held at the lovely sandstone amphitheatre formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. A huge gathering of international leaders and dignitaries came to pay their respect to him. It was the largest gathering ever of international leaders on the South African soil, as till now no one had any sort of diplomatic relations with South Africa. Now, what made the ceremony unique was the rainbow gathering comprising of people of different nations and colors. For decades, which had been of white supremacy. They all gathered for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non racial government. Nelson Mandela was accompanied by his daughter Zinani for the oath taking ceremony. Now, in this paragraph, we have the reference of the lovely autumn day. So, why autumn day in the month of May? It is because South Africa is in southern hemisphere and autumn or fall in South Africa is March to May. This is the best season in the country which brings out its natural beauty. So the reference of the lovely autumn day. But apart from this, it is also important because of the freedom after about 300 years of white rule. Mr. De Klerk was the South African politician who sworn in as the second deputy president. He himself was a white but played an important role in dismantling the white supremacy in South Africa. He, along with Nelson Mandela, was given Nobel Peace Prize in 1993 for what they did. Then, after him, Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as the first deputy president. Next, it was his turn. He pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote himself to the well-being of the republic and its people. Then he addressed the gathering. Through his inaugural address, he gives us a deep insight into his character, his thought process, his wisdom, his ideology, and all else that defines him as an activist, a political leader, and above all, a human being. He addressed the gathering with a lot of energy and optimism, and above all, with the hope and faith of a bright future that echoed through every word. In his opening speech, he put forth the ideals of liberating fellow citizens from the bondage of poverty, of deprivation, of suffering, and above all, discrimination of every kind, gender, as well as racial. And then further, he talks about an extraordinary human disaster. So, this refers to the inhuman practice of apartheid, that is, the racial discrimination suffered by the blacks at the hands of whites in South Africa. Then he thanked the international leaders and was overwhelmed with the gathering of these leaders and dignitaries. Their presence at the Union Building was a testimony of international recognition to the newly formed democratic non racial government. Then, towards the end, he wishes that this glorious human achievement may never set and wishes that or prays for a bright future for his country.